Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your service. How are you all? I hope you're doing very, very well. And welcome once again to this tiny little segment on the channel of Kilt-Man's vintage board games. Yes, and what delight do we have for you today? Well, yesterday I showed you something big and hairy, didn't I? I shouldn't have done that because YouTube does have rules and regulations about things like that. It was the game of Yeti, the abominable snowman. And today, I've got something even bigger and even hairier to show you. Yes. Steady on now, folks. King Kong! Look at it. This King Kong, the music to this version, the Dino De Laurentiis version from 1976, starring Jessica Lange as Dwan and Jeff Bridges as Jack Driscoll. It's the King Kong that I grew up with. I'm a massive devotee of all things Kongian, and the original is still an absolute unparalleled masterpiece. One of the best movies, best fantasy films ever made, the 1933 original. But I grew up with this one, and although it's much maligned, it's the one that speaks to me. It's the emotional one, and it's just awesome. John Barry's score is playing in the other room there. You will hear bits. You know, if I ever learn to shut up for a second, you'll hear it. One day I might rig up speakers in this wing of the mansion so we can really enjoy the scores out here too. Well, we would. The neighbours perhaps wouldn't. The tenants on the cottages on my land, on Top Meadow, you know. But anyway, so Ideal Games brought this out, and it's based around the climax of the remake, where of course Kong climbs not the Empire State Building but the World Trade Center and does that phenomenal leap from one East Tower to West Tower, or Tower 1 to Tower 2, however they're called, and he's smoking because these bastards with flamethrowers have gone up, and I strafed him with flame. Now, I love the movie. It's heartbreaking beyond belief. The score goes absolutely overboard with that, and that's one of the reasons why I adore that movie, is the score. But we're not here to discuss that movie. And by the way, I've done my hair like Jeff Bridges as hippie ecologist, environmentalist Jack Driscoll. No, yeah, it just happens to have fallen that way. Now, this game, I did not have this back in the day, but I got it fairly, I remember 6, maybe 8 years ago. I got this from eBay, and it was a good price. And I'm going to show you the game. I've not played it because I find it absolutely abhorrent. I love the fact that I've got it, but there's reasons why I don't like this game at all. I understand why the game was devised the way it's been devised, but I will never play this game. Can you hear that? Waterfall. One of the most beautiful pieces of music that John Barry's ever created. Genuinely heartbreaking. Anyway, I'm massively going off on tangents here. So, as you can see, this box is slightly stoved in, and there is the film's poster, which is completely wrong because A, it's daylight, and it's got a foot on each tower. You can't do that. You know, he isn't that big, for God's sake. And he's got one hell of a big gunship in one hand there, the gunship, and he's got Jessica Lange in the other hand there. The thing about the posters and the many imagery from that movie, they always use the same expression from Kong there, and they put him in smashing through the jungle wall on Skull Island. It'd be that face, his head coming up in the air on the elevated railway track, and he smashes the train down. It's that face. It's that face climbing World Trade Center. All the posters and imagery have that face. And it's just the same image just used in all these different, pieces of art. The game that pits you against the most terrifying monster of all time, I'd argue with that. I'd argue with that. Is he a monster? He's an animal that is used, abused, and taken from his island, and just he hasn't got a clue what's happening, why these things are happening to him, and it's horrible. This game is the conclusion of the film. It is all set around the World Trade Center. So your game board, as I'm now about to show you, and it's quite, well, for its time, I suppose, quite clever, innovative. What we do, it's the World Trade Center, or rather, it's the two towers. There you go, and you have. Let's get this in there as well. It fits in sort of like this, and let's see if we can get that right. Yeah, and it clips together somewhat haphazardly. Oh, God damn it. Kilt-Man, you just can't do anything, you gammy-handed fool. And as you can see here, let's show you the World Trade Center. You've got the aircraft buzzing around in there. The two towers. At the bottom there, look at that. What do you see there? Fire, debris, emergency crews. What does that remind you of? Seems very prophetic, doesn't it? Kind of scary, isn't it, really? When you think about what happened to these two towers and the emergency crews rushing to the scene. Very strange. There's your King Kong playing piece. Alright, look at him. Again, what's that expression? Yes. Even though he's broken his neck, turning his head over his shoulder like that. And he fits onto this, at the base of this. He would fit on if I didn't break the bloody thing. Right, let's get him on there. So, you see him there. And basically, he's going, when it's his turn, he climbs up. And the object of the game is for him, or rather for you, to stop him reaching the heady heights of the top of the towers. Because once he's done that, he's won. So, the idea is, you are a special elite rescue team. Although you can't see it, in one of his paws is meant to be Dwan, Jessica Lange. You guys, your crew, who are here, well, your little special forces guys, not quite sure what that pose is meant to be. And there's a bunch of these guys and they're all different colours, you know. You would move up the side of the tower as well, and in turns you would use these cards. You know, there's always cards in these things, and these cards are quite interesting. You have this as well, which is kind of bizarre. The Kong spinner, as to what actions Kong is going to do, or he's going to twist to the right, twist to the left. Isn't there a song like that? Return to up, your choice of direction. Twist to left, move up 2. But if you look at that Kong, it looks like he's a simian Nazi. Zigail! You know, Zigail! It's kind of wrong, isn't it? So obviously you'd spin him, and he would act accordingly on the game board. But you have all these cards as well. So during your turn, you know, you'll have to act upon these. And I find this quite amusing. So you can attack the left or right hand, but it'll give you arrows indicating, you know, oh, that hand or that hand. What have we got here? Spare card. What do you do with the spare card? Oh, it's just a spare, isn't it? I don't know. Oh, is it a, get out of Kong's paw free card? I don't know. Another one. 2 spare cards. Helicopter ride. Look at this. Move to any space. So you've hitched a ride in a helicopter there, or rather hanging off the bottom of a helicopter. That kind of reminds me of Who Dares Wins, the Lewis Collins SAS action, where in one of the great scenes of the siege at the end, but it's also utterly preposterous because any terrorist worth his salt would just see the SAS guys hanging underneath and just go bye bye, bang bang. But these guys come flying up like that and smash through the embassy windows. There's another thing as well, which horribly goes in tow with the 9/11 safety net. Prevents loss of one attack card. Basically, you've fallen. Kong has knocked you off. He's swiped you, and you've gone down. So all them people who jumped and leapt to their deaths rather than be burned alive. Horribly, you can't divorce yourself from that. I don't think. And I've discussed how prophetic as well John Carpenter's Escape from New York is. Yes. I did it again. I managed to get John Carpenter. I'm wearing Jack Burton's bloody vest, for God's sake. I managed to get Escape from New York in there too. A plane crashes into a building in New York City, causing debris and absolute mayhem. And then the hero lands a glider on top of the World Trade Center. A very authoritarian, draconian police state which has been rebelled against by terrorists. Attack any hand or foot. Basically, your team is trying to, or you as part of this team, are trying to dislodge Kong and knock him to his death. I've got a lot of problems with that, because he's not the bad guy in the movie. Why is this game treating him as being the villain of the piece? He's an endangered creature who's been captured, abused, tortured, humiliated. His only crime was to fall in love. And he's going to be taken from his home, transported to a world of complete and utter bastards, abused again, shot to bits. And God, it's almost a video nasty the way he meets his demise. And then he will finally come crashing to the base of the World Trade Center, and his heart will still beat as he turns to look at Dwan. And the photographers all leap on top of his fairy chest and take pictures of him. It's just heartbreaking. Escape equipment. Got a grappling hook there. Move one space after attacking King Kong. He's the fucking hero. He's not the monster. I don't get it. Attack. I heard this. Attack left hand. Arrows. That's the left hand. Attack left foot. He's like, get off, boot. I would love a version of this game where Kong is just laying waste to these guys. And maybe he wins. Someone else has come a cropper there and took a tumble. What else have we got? There's the instructions. Very yellowed paper as well. And it's you've got a special mission card because, there's only one special mission card. It reads Rescue Girl in right hand because that's where she's located. The player who draws this card has an opportunity for a quick win, because I think you're meant to. How was it again? How would you actually win the game? Yeah, be the first player to complete 5 attack missions. So that's attacking his left, his right, paw or foot, or dislodge him. That's 5 missions you're going to complete there. Or you manage to rescue the girl, who's not named as it happens here. Rescue Girl in right hand. The player who draws this card has an opportunity for a quick win. This card is like an attack right hand card. If a player successfully completes it, he needs only one other attack card to win the game. If a player is not successful, the card is discarded, thereby giving another player a chance for a quick win. No escape equipment card or safety net card can be used when attacking with this card. However, a helicopter ride card can still be used. The first player to complete the special mission and complete one other attack mission wins the game. However, King Kong wins the game if he reaches the top of the World Trade Center before any player wins. Note, a player cannot win until the end of a round. After King Kong has moved, if 2 players win at the end of the same round, the victory is shared. I wonder if Kong gets to share the victory. There's loads more cards in here, but I think they're all, you've pretty much seen what the variety is. Yeah, it's all attacking bits and bobs of Kong. And you have one of these great little, there's a word for these, you take the pieces off. There's definitely a word for that, and I've forgotten what it is. But if you've got any kind of skills, And I knew people in school who would, oh, I love these, from your games or your models. So you get your model Spitfire or whatever, and like you took all the bits and bobs off one of these frames, and they'd always say, "Oh, can I have that?" Yeah. Plastic fetishist. Well, yeah, take it. Because they were really gifted people. They'd get a little craft knife out and they'd slice these to bits and they'd make their own models out of this. And of course, if you think back to Star Wars, what was the Death Star made out of? What were all the Imperial Star Destroyers made out of? All the bits and details that were on it. And even the Nostromo and Alien, it's bits of these just stuck on just to give it a bit more depth and variety and detail. To us, it's just like, oh, that's that bit of plastic. Jesus, get rid of that. But when I bought this, like, everything was in there, and it's in perfect working order. I think I've got my, my problems with the game itself, with the ethos behind the game of killing Kong or trying to kill Kong. But if the game was actually set up like that, you know what I mean, like if you could do it vertically and he'd be up climbing, it would add a whole new dimension to it. And you could rig it so you could stick it to a wall or whatever, But it's played flat. This is great action music here. Jack has managed to finally rescue Dwan whilst Kong's fighting. The only other monster he fights on the island is a great big huge snake. And while he's wrestling with this thing, Jack manages to get Dwan away, and the two of them leap off a cliff into the river, get swept down a lot closer to the wall. But Kong is really Rick Baker, special effects maestro Rick Baker, who designed the suit. And the suit, to quote him, was a piece of shit, but the mask is brilliant. The facial features on that mask are fabulous. And this is Kong finally striding in anger down to the wall, which has kept him out for so long, and finally, because the little blonde girl that he's fallen for is behind there, he smashes through it. When Kong goes on the rampage in New York, and once again Dwan and Jack are together, fleeing through the city, Kong still looking for any blonde girl that resembles her, and they go into a bar, and they have a few drinks. They drink to Kong's future, all the little little Kong babies, which are never going to happen. And I remember Jeff Bridges as Jack Driscoll gets they got drinks there, and he gets his plastic out, not that plastic, but his credit card, and leaves it on the bar. He says, "We don't want to get shot as looters." You're going to leave your card on the bar? Have you made a note how much you actually drank, so that the barman the next day could right? I won't charge you any more than that. Fuck off. I'm afraid in that scenario, mate, I'd drink the place dry. I do love the movie to bits, and I got this game in kind of like a bit of naivety. I wasn't sure quite what they'd do with it. I've got a lot of King Kong memorabilia from the original movie, from this version, and Peter Jackson's version, which I've fallen out of favour with that one, really. I admire much of it, but it's too much. It is just, the film is too much, and in the end, he's every single moment, every single frame, he's extended way past its elasticity. So in the end, it becomes a flaccid, turgid experience. And I didn't always feel that way. And I have a phenomenal amount of gear from that movie. One day I'll show you. And there's actually a game from that, and there's all action figures and stuff, and a Skull Island playset, which is pretty good. And so I've got all that shit somewhere. But this, to me, is the one. King Kong 76 is the one that did it. The one that broke my heart. And definitely gave me a deeper understanding and adoration of film music. Because Barry's score here, which I have talked about many times before, is just an absolute masterpiece. Plucks the heartstrings, and It embraces your soul. It's exciting, it's powerful, it's frightening, but it's deeply, deeply romantic and absolutely all-out tragic as well. But yeah, so of the two games I've shown you now, Yeti is by far the more fun. This, I don't think I could ever actually, I couldn't play it. I'd have to rework the rules somewhat so that Kong basically just twats these guys, stomps on them, oosh, 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 you know. Otherwise, what would be the point? And you could always say to me, you know, well, Kilt-Man, in that situation, you've got a giant, is he 50 foot or 40 foot in this one? I think he's 50 foot in this one. A giant ape on the rampage, terrified and just, you know, angry in Manhattan. What are you going to do with him? Well, Jack says, you know, Jack wants to drop a net on him and try and, you know, get him away from the city, away so he can't harm anybody and no one can harm him. And then these gunships come in. That's man for you. If man can't subjugate, man will kill. And he always is hostile to the things he doesn't understand and the things he cannot control. So we covered a fair bit of ground in really, you know, breakneck speed here. This was a game from the 70s, and I've covered a hell of a lot of shit here. The ecology, man's inhumanity, Nazi gorillas. That is quite bizarre, that, isn't it? Way! Dizzy gorilla. You've heard of Dizzy Gillespie. Dizzy gorilla. Dizzy Kyle. And you got all these cards and all these playing pieces. But despite my misgivings about the ideology of this ideal game, it's still quite a novel approach, and it shows that, you know, merchandise. You know, any movie that came out, action figures, even back then, action figures, posters, soundtracks, everything was there. Like, and you'd have video games now. But someone went into the trouble of, you know, working out how are we going to devise a game around King Kong. You could have had it on the island. You could have escaped from King Kong on the island. You've got to get away from Kong, back behind the wall. You know, stuff like that. There's lots of variations. And in fact, I like the way, crazily, the way that this board is configured. This is Kong in New York now. Those two towers are so close together that Kong could actually do the poster shot and stand with one foot on each one. It is a great, it's one of the great classic posters from the 70s, I think, although it's equally absurd as well. Petrox, you know, because the whole thing was about oil. So the Petrox Explorer is the ship that goes out there trying to find this hidden, you know, the mother lode of rich petroleum, you know, deep on Skull Island, and all they find, oh no, it's just a great big fucking gorilla. But I like the twist on that. In the 30s, it was white colonialism and broad adventure, broad adventure. Racism played a huge part in it too, but sheer feats of the imagination, a monster yarn, in every sense of the phrase. In the 70s, it was more societal bite. This is what it's commercialism, it's capitalism, it's man's greed, and Kong becomes a metaphor for the natural world being abused by the man. You know, and of course it is the white man that's doing it as well. Because you've got I forget his name now, when Dwan's being captured by Kong after the big ceremony, and they lead out patrol following these big footprints. You know, I mean, Kong can't really hide, can he? You know what I mean? And they're planting, you know, seismic sort of thing, what do we call it? Whatever they're doing to try and, you know, seismologically map the island whilst they're out there, and this black guy's going like, I'm not busting my ass for no white man company. And like Jack's like, because he just wants to get Dwan back to safety. He's falling in love with her. Who can blame him? And he says like, oh, okay, take your time. Who gives a shit that Radar's got the big ape heading in our direction? And all of a sudden he's like, dead quick doing it. But that's the point. That is the point. Whether the ape's heading to them or they're after the ape, they want to get to the ape to get the girl back. So, you know what I mean? I like this bit of music here. This is the razzmatazz of Kong being unveiled. So you've got all like 70s wah-wah twanging guitars. But then that organ piece comes in. And Kong, they've dressed Kong up. He's in a great big, he's hemmed in. It's a really bad effect as well. The model they use for that is horrendous. He's hemmed in this cage, but he's initially underneath a huge petrol pump. And you're like, oh, you what? That's right on the fucking nose. But it's also what they would have done, what this company would have done. Like, people, the big bucks and all that. They would have housed him in that. It's all promotion. And they put a crown on his head as well, and it's just, the ridicule, humiliation. And Kong looks genuine, like, he's shocked by all the people around him, he's just, all the flash photography. It's a brilliant film in that it does, make you side with him, and it makes you realise that man is the bastard, without a doubt. There are no saving graces. Even at the end, because Dwan does fall for Kong as well, and Kong literally falls for her. But at the very end, although she's definitely in love with Jack as well, and Kong's lying there, he's died, his heart stopped beating, and you've heard that horrible pregnant pause moment, and she's screaming all their party rig out and all that, because she was the star of the show next to Kong for a big razzmatazz, and like she's heartbroken. The shock's got to her from everything, and she looks back and she's Jack, but everyone's trying to interview her, and Jack just realises, you always wanted stardom, you wanted fame, well, you've got it, but at what cost? And he doesn't go to her aid, and it's a great 70s. You've already had the tragic death of Kong, which is nasty enough, but in that bleak 70s thing, because they've done it in the 30s, they are sorrowful. They do rue the fact that Kong died, but it wasn't the planes that got him. It was beauty killed the beast, the famous line, of course. But there is a respect for Kong, I feel, in that first movie, the original movie. In this movie, he's just come to. He's been abused, and he is the epitome of man's horrendous nature. But in a bleak, even further bleak, nihilistic turn from the 70s, there is no happy ending for the two human, lovers either. Jack just goes, I can't. I want nothing more to do with you. His face says it all. He just turns and walks back into the crowd, leaving her surrounded by people and the corpse of the one thing that gave its life for her. See, you may think King Kong 76 is a pile of shit. Many people do. You're wrong if you think that. You are genuinely wrong. It's got its faults for sure, but it's a really clever and inspired take on what has become an absolutely legendary saga, which has spanned, got almost 100 years now, well, 13 years short of 100. So, anyway, let's just see what else it says here. It's a bit of, you can see there's some damage on the box. You've got to expect this. Oh, look, there's the obligatory picture of kids playing it. It's kind of faded there. I don't know if you can see that too well. The kids are playing it, and they're all making those faces. Save the ape! King Kong, the world's most terrifying monster, is climbing the World Trade Center. Can you stop him? Bravely, you go after him, then close in to attack. He'll make one false move and he'll twist and turn, knocking you to the ground below. Suspense is mounting. He nears the top. Who will win? You, another player, or King Kong himself? The challenge is yours when you play Ideal's King Kong game. Anyway, folks, another little trip down memory lane there. As I say, I can't tell you what the gameplay is like because I just won't bring myself to play it. You know, I'd be letting Kong win the whole time. I'd be sabotaging all the other players. You know. You dropped me from the helicopter. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry. Didn't see you there. You crashed into my rescue team. Whoopsie. Folks. So again, I'll offer the same challenge to you. Go find your old games, your old board games, not video games, and let me know what you've managed to dig up. Because there's some great classics out there, but there's some ones which slip under the radar, and what's that? And it could be a movie spin-off as well. Anyway, folks, in the meantime and in between time, please take it easy. Be happy, be healthy. Keep it Celtic, and look after the ape, because that's where we came from, don't forget. And I'm going to see you all later. You shouldn't have promised you were going to bring home the big one. Big one. Jesus Christ. Who says I ain't gonna? Charles Grodin. Awesome.